Welcome back. So the next thing we're going to need to do, you notice that I've added this here, and what I've done is I've just made up some names basically. So these three here, sorry, are to do with our groceries, and then I've got our entertainment here, those two there. I've got these two here for our eating out, and then I've got our incomes, mortgage, insurance, power, utilities, water. That's our local taxes. I couldn't think of anything. So, and these are our sundries. So we'll see how we get on with those ones. Anyway, so where are we going with this? Well, what I need to do is I need to build some space. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push these quite a bit out of the way. I've done them now. If you make your own up, or if you take those, pause the video, put those in, then that's perfectly fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to push those out of the way, possibly a little bit more. It doesn't matter how far, I don't need them right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole of January, and we did this before, copy, go to there, right click, and just transpose. And this is why I didn't need those others in the way, because what I'm going to do is I've got groceries, sundries. I'm going to get rid of the ones we don't need. So I've got income and insurance there, and insurance is already there. So sundries I'm going to get rid of, and then I don't need these sundries or those to there. So that gives me all the group. Now I can bring this a little bit nearer. I always like to leave one gap. That's just me, but that's the way it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to give this a named range, and I'm going to call this descriptors for no other reason than that's on my list of things. So I'm just going to call it descriptors. You can call it as you want. We don't need it after this. So once we've used it, we're going to delete it. So it's not important. I've done that, so that's brilliant. So what I'm now going to do is, some of these only have one option. There is only one water company, fluids, and that's perfectly fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a single formula and then just edit it as we go through. And that's going to base itself upon, again, the same criteria. What about this with this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go equals if. And then what I'm going to do is say that is equal to that. Now I remember that when I pull this down across, I don't want the C to change. So I'm going to put a dollar in front of the C. And I don't want the 2 to change. So I'm going to put a dollar in front of the 2. The F can change, that's fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a random number between. There's no point in doing our rand, because we've got a rand between that is perfectly suitable for this. Now income is our 8 to 9 here. So I'm just going to put 8 and 9. And then comma. And then I'm just going to put 0 for nothing. So that's just going to generate a value 8 to 9. Now it's come as a currency. That's fine. I'm just going to set this to number. And then I'm going to tell it to get rid of the trailing zeros, because I only want that one number. So 9, that would come out with income too, and that's fine. Now I could drag that along, but I'm not ready for that yet. First thing I want to do is recognize that I want it not to give me the number, but give me the name here. And this is the perfect opportunity for us to use that VLOOKUP. And now I could write it simply by saying, okay, now let's use another square here and say equals VLOOKUP. Look up what? Look up this value. Look up where? Well, I want you to look up in my table over there, which I call descriptors. Now you can see why I use that. Where's the answer? It's in the second column. So that I want the words. I'm going to give you the number. You're going to give me the words. It's going to be in number 2. And, you know, I want an exact match. I don't want an approximation. And that would give me income too. And that's really nice. But A, that's nowhere near where I want it. And B, there's no need for me to do that separately to this one. We've learned that we can include functions inside functions. So I've got this income too. We can see the formula. If you want to, you can pause and then write that down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that here. I don't need the equals because it's already in a function. So VLOOKUP, what am I looking up? And I don't need to tell it because it's the random number between 8 and 9. Where's the answer? Well, that's in the descriptors. There it is. Which column is the answer? It's in column 2. And does it have to be an exact match? Oh, it certainly does. False. Now that tells me income 1. So that's superb. And as I double click, because it keeps generating a random number, it will change. So I'm going to pull that across to here. And there you go. It goes to random 1 again. And now I've got a formula that should work for all of these. And if I pull that down just for January, I can see that I get income 1 and 2. And why? Well, because I'm only dealing with this round between 8 and 9. So all I've got to do now is go through and say, well, with my utilities, that is number 13. So I could simply, I could change these two numbers to 13, but to be honest, just reduce it to that. It makes it a little bit faster. This one here, water, can only be 14. So let's click just before, go to there, 14, make sure I kept the comma in, press enter. Local taxes has got to be 15. So again, just do that and put 15 in. Mortgage can only come from Spendy Bank. So again, select that and put 10 in there. Groceries, that's our 1, 2, 3. So we're going to change this to 1 and change this one to 3. Sundries are down the bottom. That's 16 to 19. So we're going to change this one to 16. This one to 19. Our insurance is one of 2 insurance, cars online or lost content company. So we're going to choose 11 and 12. Eating out is either restaurant 6 or restaurant 7. And entertainment is simply either 4 or 5. Now, why am I doing this? Because I just want test data. But I need the test data to have every part of the data I need to. And I don't want to go through this, typing these all in. That's really dull and takes way too long. But let's just pull that down. Has that worked? It's worked really nicely. So I've got all of those following through. There's no gaps in there. So all I'm going to do is now run that all the way down to the bottom, overshooting, and there we go. So now I've got that. And now what I can do is tell this, and there's that gap. This is why I leave the gap just in case. But if we wanted more space, don't forget we can right click and go insert. If I double click, I get a nice load of space. And all I've got to do is say equals. Now I'm going to use an if statement here because I can't sum these up. This is not a number and I don't want to concatenate because I don't want the whole of zeros. So what I'm going to say is if, and no, that of course it doesn't make sense. And this is where you suddenly make a change and realize actually there was no point in putting a 0. All I need to do was put a 2 speech marks and delete the 0 there. And all I've got to do is just go through and change that to 2 speech marks. And that would make my life a lot easier. Oops, you can see how wonderful the help is. So informative, but I can see what the error is. I'm missing the brackets off the end. So it's not going to like that. So I'm going to put the comma back in, 2 speech marks, and then do that. And so when you make a mistake, look at the top. Main thing with the error messages is just to have a look at them and see what they're telling you. But equally, it's just telling you there's an error. It must be something you've just done. So just have a look through. You will definitely have typed something in incorrectly. Please don't do what a lot of people do, which is I've done nothing wrong and the computer won't do it for me. If the computer's complaining, you've done something wrong. Anyway, I'm going to drag that all the way down to the end again. That should now slow down when I come to the end, and therefore I get that. Now all I've got to do is join these together. So all I've got to do is equaled concat, not the one that's now been discarded, but the new one, concat, and run the range across. I don't need to do each individual one. Close that, and that gives me that. And then all I've got to do is run that down. And these will keep changing as we run down towards the bottom. Then they will keep changing because the random numbers are changing, but that's perfectly fine. I'm not worried about that. Now I'm going to copy those. So Control C, and I'm going to go here at the moment. That's where I need them. I'm going to right click and I'm just going to paste the values. So that's where I've got them at the moment. I'm going to want those to go here at the moment. So I'm going to insert a blank row and then I'm going to click here, and something we haven't done before. I'm actually going to right click. I didn't need to insert that new row because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the entire column. I'm then going to go there, right click, and I'm going to insert cut cells. And that puts them there. There's the blank column I inserted. I invariably add a blank column just in case I get something wrong and I overwrite something. I can always undo it, but I find that a bit safer. It means I've got 2 more clicks, insert, delete. I can put up with that. I'm now going to select all of this and tell it to delete it all. So I've got all that in place. There's those items there. Starting balance hasn't got a descriptor, but that's fine. I'm just going to mark that as income because that's what it is. It's not from one of the income sources. And we've got the beginnings of what we're looking for here. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do is just put some points up here. So this is obviously the date, and this is the description, and this is the category in which it goes into. And well, this is where this becomes a little bit more difficult because I want to identify the difference between income and not income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now tidy this up by separating these out. And I'm going to do that by simply asking a single question. If the cell here, so D3, is equal to income, that's all we're looking for. Then if it's equal to income, then let's include that cell there. So let's include the value in that cell. Otherwise, let's put a 0 in there and close the brackets. Then all I'm going to do here is say equals, if this cell here, oops, clicked away too early, if, open brackets, the cell we've just created is greater than 0, so if it's got any value other than 0 in it, then leave this cell with a 0. Otherwise, take this value. So basically, if this says income, put a value here, don't put it here. And so that should work if we pull that on the way down. The problem with that is we get all these zeros and they're pretty ugly. And when we come to do a currency, then it really is ugly. So let's undo the currency for now. So there are other ways. What I could do now is put speech marks in. And we know that's going to generate a empty space. So that's really lovely. Now I've lost that, and I've lost that because it doesn't equal 0 now, because as long as it's anything other than empty, and that's what I meant to do there. Let's just take that down to there. Okay, and that seems to work, but it doesn't, and we'll explore why in a second, but it looks like it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1,000 there, and what our formula is going to be here is we're going to say equals this one here. And then we're going to say this cell here is going to equal the previous amount we had there, plus the amount we've got there, minus anything in this column here. And we get an error. And that's because these speech marks, because the speech marks don't have a value. So it's trying to add emptiness, but it's not empty. It's all very confusing. Well, that's easily solved, surely. If I copy this and I right click and I paste the values, that should, now I've got nothing in there, there's no formula, but I'm still getting the value because Excel still sees something in there. So I could press delete, and now that works. That cell is now empty because before I put 2 empty speech marks in there, so it still put something in there, and that's really messy. So I've now got to go through deleting all these, but we don't want to do that. So let's go back a few stages. Let's go back, get rid of all of this. Okay, we're back to there, and I've put the speech marks in, and then we've got to there. So I've put the speech marks in here, and what I'm going to do instead is something that seems completely counterintuitive. I'm going to put it to tell it to put the word duck there. So if this does not say income, don't put 0, don't put blank, but put the word duck in. It doesn't have to be the word duck, it's just something I've done. Again, I've got to remember that this is now going to have the word duck in when it's not got a value. So if it's equaled, so if 3 is equaled to duck, then make this equal to E3. So F3, if this cell here has the word duck in, now put the value in here. Otherwise, put the word duck in. So we're going to have the word duck because this one doesn't have the word duck. But if I pull this down, it says, right, this cell does have the word duck, so now I'll take the value from there. And that seems so counterintuitive. But now let's grab this. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste on top. Now all I've got is the word duck or the values. Okay. I'm not going to delete this yet. What I need to do is I need to put 1000 in there. I'm now going to delete this column, which feels really scary, but believe me, we're okay. This is our credit column, and this is our debit column. And now we're going to have our balance here. And our balance is really simple. The very first cell is equal to nothing more than how much we've got coming in. So that's it. Surely if we've just opened the bank account, we haven't got a debit. But if we did have a debit, we could always say that cell minus this cell and then press enter. And because that cell is empty, we just get whatever's there. So that formula works for this first row. Every subsequent cell is going to be equal to whatever's in the previous cell plus whatever's in the credit cell minus anything that's in the debit cell. Now you know what's going to happen. As soon as I press enter, I'm going to get value because duck is as bad as speech marks. Okay, but bear with me. So I'm going to take that down to there. All I'm now going to do is I'm going to select this column here, and I'm just going to go up to here, and I'm going to tell it to, sorry, not that one, the find and select. And I'm going to use this option called replace. And you can see I've already typed in find what, the word duck. No speech marks, just there. Replace with, there's nothing in there. And I'm just going to say replace all. And it's done it. And now the values are showing through. Now what I haven't got is the rest of the calculations. So I'm going to go back. I only wanted to show you that. There you go. Let's go back to our formula. There's our formula. They're working nicely. So what I'm now going to do is pull that formula. So Control Z took me all the way back. Now what I'm going to do is take that to the end. All the ducks are appearing. That's lovely. I've got the whole two columns selected. So copy, right click, paste everything. There you go. Just the words, just the numbers. So now I can put into here, get rid of this column here. This is our credits. These are our debits. The starting balance was 1000. We remember with our balance is equal to that cell minus that cell. This one is equal to the previous cell plus the credits minus the debits. Get the value, drag that all the way to the bottom, go all the way to the top because we've got that value error. Select those two columns, find and select, replace, duck, replace with nothing at all, replace all, 297 replacements. Okay, close, everything works. Grab all three columns, currency, and there we have it. So we've now got the beginning of our nice counting system. All I'm going to do there is bold those and center them. And isn't that really nice? So I've now got the beginnings of that. And if I go down to the bottom, so maybe I want to put in the 17th of the 12th, 21. And I'm going to decide and as I do it, my local corner store appears, shop appears. I've got my groceries. That's fine. That comes up. And I spent £30. And then this just needs to replicate downwards. And I've got that. We can look future at how we can get that to happen naturally. But I can add more things as I'm going through without any issues whatsoever. So we've got a long way, still got quite a lot to do on here, but for now, let's stop there. See you in the next lesson.